Hi, Gary Chillingworth here for Air Gunner Magazine, Shooting and Country TV. Welcome to Life at a Range. Well, we're back in the conservatory. The wife is out, so she doesn't know, so that's all good. Today's a really interesting video. It's entitled, What to Do When You Suck.
You suck!
I know, it's a great title, isn't it? And it's not clickbait, it's an honest question. Now, I'll explain to you why we're doing this video today. And it's actually designed for people who shoot, who have maybe had a dip in their performance, and for new shooters who are coming into the sport. And all of a sudden, it might help you improve, but I'll explain to you the method of my madness. For those of you who don't know me, or don't know me well, I used to be able to shoot. It's not a joke. Back in 2012, 2013, I was a member of Team England, and I've won a couple of national Springer titles and a World Springer title and a couple of other bits and pieces. I've cleared a course with a spring gun, and a year or so back, actually now probably 2 years thinking about lockdown, it was more of a case that I was taking on people like Simon Vant and Alex Larkin and Richard Woods with my Springer, and I was putting in scores that were PCP level, 54s, 55, 56s. I never regularly banged in 58s, 59s. But now I'm struggling to get into the 50s. Last Sunday, Malden, I shot a 44, and for the life of me, I can't work out why. So today, well, actually, I do know why now, but we'll come into that a little bit later. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at reasons why all of a sudden you may suck. And trust me, it's something we've gone down a deep, dark rabbit hole, and I'm hoping that it's going to help me, it's going to help you, it's going to help everyone, and it's going to stop me sitting in my car and having a little sob at the end of every little shoot, or every shoot. So welcome to Life at the Range with your host, Gary, who sucks.
You suck!
Let's get on with it. Okay, so you're a shooter. You shoot on the range, and I strongly recommend when you're practicing, shoot paper. As I've always said, if you're shooting a target like this one here, it's got a big 35mm kill zone, and you could be missing 20 millimeters off to the right or 20 millimeters high or whatever, and you won't know. If you shoot paper or card, remembering you've got to have a good backstop behind it, it will show you whether or not all of your pellets are landing pretty much in the same area. So always shoot paper. I'm also a big believer in shooting at, say, 15, 20 yards. 20 yards is probably better. Because at 40 yards, that's a long way for wind to attack your pellet, or or a little bit of a wiggle. Whereas at 20 yards, you're going to have to be shooting in a bit of a gale for it to move about that much. Realistically, with a PCP, you should be shooting a ragged hole at 20 yards. Once you've got a little bit of competence, actually competence, that's a terrible word. Once you've got a bit of experience, we'll go with that. Once you're a bit more experienced as a shooter, and you know what you're doing, especially if you're resting the butt of the rifle on the deck, you should be shooting a ragged hole group. So, my TX, at 20 yards, my groups went from pretty much going through all the same hole to being about the size of an orange. So at 40 yards, they were horrendous. They were like that. So, why? Now, granted, it has got considerably worse, but it's been getting worse for a while. So, if all of a sudden your groups start going off, what do? Well, we'll start with the basics. We've got here our lovely HW100. So the first thing you need to do, or what I would always do, is check your scope. Just get yourself an Allen key and check all 4 nuts, or sort of bolts on the top, and check the bolts that attach you to the rail. If one of those has come loose and your scope is moving, you're going to lose 0. You're not going to be able to shoot. The next thing that a lot of people don't think about, and certainly with a spring gun, I have actually checked this rifle, it is clear, just to prove that. pointing it at the conservatory window. What could go wrong? Actually, no, I'm going to point it down there. There you go, it's all clear. Another thing you need to do is check your stop bolts. Certainly on a spring gun or with the TX, you've got two at the front and you've got two which hold in the trigger guard. If one of these comes loose, you will go absolutely all over the place. It's absolutely horrendous. So check your scope is all nice and tight. Check your stop bolts. Sorry, I just heard some beep on the right hand side. The next thing is you see this rifle has a silencer.
Hi, Gary here. Right, before any of you say anything, yes, it is a silencer. I know some people call it a moderator or a suppressor, but the original patent was for a silencer. So that is acceptable. Don't moan. Silencer or moderator or suppressor. Nobody really cares. Silencer.
And we're going to come on to that a lot more later. Check your silencer is nice and tight. Now, if your silencer has come loose and it's wobbling about and it's not sitting completely level, you can get this thing called clipping, where the pellet comes out of the barrel, it wobbles down the barrel, hits the sides of the baffles or the sides of the barrels, and it will come out destabilized. So you want to check to make sure that it's on tight and there's no clipping. What some people can do, as I say, you will see that I've just fired this off, so I know that it's clear, is just on the end of the barrel, you can put a tiny bit of Tipex or some white marks, something that you can take off. Don't put hammerite in there. Just put some Tipex on the inside. And then if the pellet is coming out the barrel, it will take that Tipex off, and then you can just clean it off afterwards. So you just put the Tipex down the inside of that barrel. Then just look over the gun. Make sure if there's any bolts, any screws, anything like that, just make sure they're all nice and tight. It's got an adjustable cheek piece. Check to make sure it hasn't dropped or raised. Make sure it's on nice and tight. So that's pretty much what you can do in the initial bits with the rifle. A little bit more complicated is make sure that the barrel is in tight. On a TX, and I'll put you up a picture, there's a big barrel screw and you have to use a couple of extensions. That was good. Just drop those two on top of the scope. Good idea. You have to take the trigger block off. You have to take the compression tube out and everything like that, and then you basically slide a big socket down there and see if that's nice and right. So that's basically it. Scope on nice and tight. Barrel screw, stock screws are all tightened up. Silencer is on. Barrel is on tight. If all those things are good, then we move on to the next section. Okay, so the next thing is most rifles have got an O-ring, and when you cock, if you notice, obviously you can see you've got the pellet probe that is coming in and out. Now the HW100 doesn't have one, but I think the S400 does. There's quite a few that do. And when you close the breech, if air is coming back out of there, it's not pushing it all the way down the barrel. So a good little trick, and we've just cocked that. We just put that little bit of tissue over the top, and we'll fire it off. And as you see, the paper didn't fly off. If you've got a problem with back pressure and the air's coming back and it's not pushing all the way down, probably best do it with a pellet actually. But I'm not going to fire a pellet in here, obviously. The piece of paper will go flying off. And if that happens, then you know you need to replace the O-ring on your pellet probe. Now, the next thing we need to do, depending on how bad it is, if it's a case that maybe your groups have gone from a 5p piece to a 10p piece, give the barrel a clean. It could be a case that the barrel has just leaded up a bit. Now, there are many ways of cleaning the barrel. We're actually going to do a proper video on physically how to clean the barrel of an air gun. But what a lot of people do, and it's an easy way to do it, and I'm pretty sure Pete Sparks, one of the top shooters that's ever been in HFT, he would take a couple of these little felts, put some Napier pellet lube on them, place them into the breech, put a pellet behind it, and fire a couple off after every competition. And that will help just keep the barrel in good condition. You've obviously got pull-throughs, which you can just use. You put a piece of cloth at the end, or a piece of a patch with a bit of something like Brunox or Napier or some kind of lubricant, and you just pull it through the barrel. And if you pull it through the barrel, you'll see that the dirt will come off. Do it a couple of times and then try your group again. It might take 10 or 15 shots for the barrel to lead back in, but basically clean it, shoot it, and let's see how that goes. If it doesn't work, try it again. You don't want to go too mad at once, but just give it that light pull through. You can use a bore snake, which is basically like a huge great shoelace. I'm not a big fan of them. I've got them, but we'll cover those in the video. We'll just give it a light pull through and give it a couple of shots and see how you go. The next thing you should do, if you own one, and I'd recommend every shooter owns, is put the rifle over a chronograph. Now, if you're shooting paper and you can see that your pellets are going up and down in a straight line, there's a chance that your rifle is not being particularly consistent with power. So get your rifle, 10 shots over a chrono. I know that this gun runs roughly 775 feet per second, and just shoot it over the chrono. If it's going 790, 740, 730, 780, then there's an issue. Probably an issue with regulator, or it could be the fact you've maybe got some really, really bad pellets, but we'll come on to that in a sec. But everyone should own a chronograph. You can either own, I'll put a link to the chrono video we did, but you can spend loads of money on a scan, like £300, with a brilliant indoors. And the LMBR R2A, which is my personal favourite chrono because it's got a huge, great big aperture. So you can test it at the barrel, but you can also put it 40 yards downrange without being scared of hitting the chrono. If you can get one, Combro, 40 quid, they're an absolutely brilliant chrono for the money. And there's also a really cheap one you can buy off of eBay for about 25 quid. Now, those chronos only read in meters per second, but my mate Jason Lockett's got one, and he swears by them. For 25 quid, every air gunner should have one, because not only does it make sure you keep legal, but it also makes sure that you can check the health of your gun, see if it's shooting consistently. Ideally, with pellets, you should be looking anything under a 10 foot per second spread, and you're golden. Okay, so everything's on right and tight. You've given the barrel a clean, and the gun is still not good. So what do we do next? Well, has anything changed? Have you basically swapped a tin of pellets? Now, as we all know, I'll put a picture up. On the back of the tin of pellets, you have a serial number. Have you swapped from 452s to 453s? Has the batch number changed? So before you start doing anything more drastic, put that tin of pellets to one side. If you've got 3 or 4 other tins of pellets knocking about, try those in your gun. See if that makes a difference. So have you changed your pellets? Try a different tin of pellets and see if that works. If that doesn't work, we're now looking at changing pellets. If you've got one, or if you can borrow one, whip your scope off and put a new one on. Stick the new scope on, and again shoot at 20 yards, then at 40 yards. All of a sudden your groups go all nice and tight, then you know that it's maybe a scope issue. Scopes do get old. They've got these things within the turrets called restrictor springs, and as they get old, they get weak, and you start getting a wandering zero. It shouldn't really affect the accuracy of the rifle, but it can be a case that you zero it one day in no wind, and then the following day you pick your gun up and it's like 5 shots to the right. That usually means that the restrictor springs in your scope have started to go. Another good trick to do, if you've got another rifle, go and shoot that for a second. Pick the rifle up, your other rifle, bang, bang, bang. If you're still putting shots through the same hole, with your new rifle and that scope, you know that's good. So you can actually use that scope on your current rifle. But more importantly, that's actually proving you. Is there an issue with you? But we're going to come on to you and me in a minute. Another good trick is grab someone like this chap, Simon Van, or Alex Larkin, or grab someone you know who can shoot. Don't just grab Bob, who shoots an SMK, who says, "Oh, I can put a single hole through at 50 yards," and tells you he's like an ex-US Marine sniper. Grab someone you know and get them to shoot your gun. Say to them, "Look, I can't get this to group. You have a go." Don't do it on a massively windy day because that proves nothing. You've got to find a nice, quiet day. Give them your rifle, give them your pellets, let them shoot. If all of a sudden they can shoot a tiny little group at 40 yards and a tiny little group at 20 yards, then again, you know now the issue is more with you than with the rifle. The chances are that they'll come back to you and say, "No, I can't get it to group either." So use someone that you trust to shoot, get them to shoot paper, and then look at their groups compared to your groups. Obviously, if you're a shooter who's just coming into the sport and you are grouping like that, which is nothing wrong, and you grab a world champion, they're going to group better than you and see what they can do with your gun. Because it's all to do whether or not proving if it's you or whether or not it's the right. So that's the thing. I'll just check my chart. Okay. So what next? You've now got a rifle. You've had a world champion test it. You put a new scope on it, and you're ready to throw it in the lake because it's driving you crazy. You now need to do a deep clean. Now, you can pull it through, and it will be nice and clean. And then you can do what is known as a deep clean. So I'm not fishing about, I'm fishing about in my pocket for a little felt. Now, I cleaned my TX. I cleaned my TX, and the TX I thought was clean. And then I used VFG paste, and that is what came out. Put it on a rod, pull it through. Now I'll go back down there. Now, VFG is one of the best cleaning systems you can get, but it's expensive. There is no doubt about it. It's a blue paste that you pull through. You usually use a rod. I prefer a rod to a pull through. You get these little felts. I bought the wrong ones. You can actually get felts that have got the hole in that you attach this to. But basically, if you buy the wrong felts, you just use a drawing pin and make a hole and you push it in. You push the pellet in, the felt in that end, then the rod down there, and you always pull in the direction of the pellet, and you screw it on and you pull it through. And if you use VFG paste, it will deep clean and it will literally just strip everything out. Now, if you don't want to spend a lot of money on the paste, you can use something like Autosol. I've used Autosol in the past to clean barrels. Don't leave it in your barrel. Basically, tiny little pull one through it, felt through with Autosol, and then just 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8 pellets, felts through, and just get all that Autosol out of the barrel, and it will literally strip everything out of your barrel. You're then going to have to let it back in. So what I do is I use the Autosol or my VFG, I pull it through, 7 or 8 felts. I then put a couple of Napier felts through with sort of Napier pellet loop, pull them through, and then you shoot. And hopefully by doing that, that should actually bring your barrel back to almost factory standard. So you've done a deep clean, everything's tight, the gun's still not working. What do you do? Well, if you're a competent gunsmith, not me, give the gun a full service. You know, it's worth doing anyway. Certainly with a TX200, I'm more than capable of doing that. HW98, not so much. If you know, you know. Literally strip the thing apart, clean everything. Now, with a TX200, there's 2 tiny little O-rings at the bottom of the compression tube. they need to be replaced on a fairly regular basis. If they've gone, even though it will be accurate over the chrono, it might affect accuracy downrange. Now, this is a really important thing. Don't be scared to ask for help. I'm an experienced airgun shooter. I have been for a long time. I make these low quality videos. I was at my wit's end with my TX and I phoned up Nigel Wood. Went, help! Or you could phone up Tony Leach. Or if you're a member of Cambridge HFT, speak to someone called Jeff Wesley. Or Richard Nash, DVS Chesterfield. He's a superb gunsmith. There are lots of great gunsmiths around. If you are at the end of your tether and you do not know what to do, ask for help. There is no shame in it. I learn every single day with air guns, and there are things that I can do and there are things that I can't. Don't be scared about asking for people. But that's why forums like Life at the Range or the UK HFT, Shooting the Breeze, Airgun BBS, and things like that are great because you can always ask for help. Sometimes you might get dodgy advice, but usually if someone's talking cobblers, other people will go, and not so much. Don't be scared to ask for help. So you've given your rifle to Simon Van, and you've gone, Simon, my gun is absolute, it sucks, it's terrible. And Simon's going, oh, okay, let me have a go. 40 yards, bang, 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 all through the same hole. You've looked at him, you've slapped him, which is an acceptable thing to do, Simon. You've slapped him, do it again. Because 2 shots don't prove anything. So he picks up the gun, bang, bang, bang. Another 4 shots through the same hole. You've grabbed the gun, bang, 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 and grapefruit. He gets it, bang, bang, bang. The problem's with you. The problem's with me. The problem's with all of us. So what could be affecting you? I've always said, keep a note of when you're shooting. I used to have a problem where I would get 15, 20 shots into a course, and all of a sudden my scores for the last 10 would crash. And I'm what is known as I'm borderline diabetic because I'm morbidly obese and I eat way too much cake. Don't take medication, but I control it with food. I don't eat too many carbs, so that's why I don't eat a bacon sandwich before I shoot because it will spike my blood sugar. But I worked out that as I was getting round and round a course, my blood sugar was dipping. And if your blood sugar dips and you start to get dehydrated, it affects your eyes. Now, certainly with dehydration, if you're not drinking all the way through the course and you get dehydrated, your ability to range find will certainly diminish. So you've got to keep yourself hydrated. Also, you've got to keep your blood sugar up. I have these little protein bars. They've got nuts and chocolate in, and I have 2 of those. And every 10 pegs or so every 5 pegs or so, I have a third of one, and I just go around, and it just keeps me going. I just drink water as I go all the way around and keep myself hydrated. But the other thing that is a massive problem, and this is my biggest problem, is fatigue and tiredness. Now, as some of you will know, I'm a train driver. I don't do this for a living. I do this for fun. My proper job is driving a train. In fact, I'll put a picture here of me in my bright orange jacket, looking like a space hopper. And that is what I do for a living. Based at Bishop Stortford, work for Greater Anglia, and I love driving the trains. I'm predominantly a night driver. I start work at 10 o'clock at night. I finish at 7 o'clock in the morning. And often I finish work, I jump in the car, I pick up the gun, I pick up Alex and Jean, and we go tearing off to somewhere like Brighton, or to Meon, or to Horsham, or to Malden, or whatever. And I haven't slept. And it has not been unknown for me to fall asleep at a shoot. I don't know if I've got the picture, but I'll see if I can find it and put it up. But I remember at Lee Valley, I was sitting there, and apparently I was like that for about 20 odd minutes, fast asleep, before we started shooting. If you're fatigued, it affects the way you range find. It affects all your muscles, and it affects your whole body. So you've got to be well rested, or if you can get to a shoot, and if you've got to, if you've got to shoot straight from work, have a 30-minute power nap before you can in the car. Fatigue is a massive problem for shooters. It's a massive problem for me, and it is one of the things that I really struggle with. But that's about it. But now we're going to talk about what happened to my gun. So, what happened to my gun? Well, as you can see, this isn't actually my gun. I'm pretty sure I've fixed my gun. And to be honest with you, I'm not going to bugger about with it because I've hopefully got the UK recoiling championships in a few days, and I'm not going to mess around with it. And that's another good thing. If your gun is working, leave it alone. And I'm talking to you, Rex, and to you, Simon, two terrible fiddlers. I mean, Simon Van, lovely guy, world champion. We all know this. He was a nightmare. He'd get his gun running absolutely perfectly, and then he'd change the hammer spring or the scope or something like that. And we'd go, "Why? You're brilliant. Stop doing that." And Rex is the same. Rex went and shot a 54 at Cambridge with his Springer on Sunday. Amazing, brilliant. I can guarantee you he'll take the gun apart. Leave it alone. Now, I did all of the things on my list, and I still couldn't get the gun to group. Now, my rifle is a TX200 Hunter Carbine, and as you know, that has a 1/2-inch UNF on the front. I have checked that the gun is unloaded. Has a 1/2-inch UNF on the front. Now, what I do is I'll put a picture up. I have a 1/2-inch UNF adapter with a muzzle brake, and then underneath the muzzle brake are some lead weights, and that is all covered in essentially a camo bandage. That works really well for me because it takes the flip out of the rifle. So, based on the silencer thing, I initially went, oh, okay, right, what's the problem? I took the muzzle weight off, didn't work. I took the muzzle brake and the 1/2-inch UNF thread off, that didn't work. Sorry, I took the 1/2-inch UNF adapter and the muzzle brake out and replaced the plenum insert that you have on the end of the TX, and that didn't work. And then in a moment of madness, I went, I wonder if there was a problem with essentially the threads. I took my plenum insert out, shot it with absolutely nothing, just a hole there and the crown of the barrel, and all of a sudden the accuracy came back. Not perfect, because it no longer has a muzzle weight on the end, but it's at 20 yards it does a one-hole group, at 40 yards it's 5 pence piece size, so it's good enough. The minute I put another 1/2-inch adapter back in with any kind extending out of it, it won't group. It hitting the ground, it's absolutely shocking. So something has happened to the end of my barrel. I think someone has accidentally trod on it, and that has damaged the threads. I've tried a new 1/2-inch UNF, that doesn't work. I've tried a silencer with a built-in thread, that doesn't work. There is a problem with a thread. There is damage to the threads inside. These things happen. We leave our guns lying around. It doesn't take a lot for someone to step back, and I've done it myself. I've trod on somebody's gun bag, and luckily I didn't tread on their rifle, but it happens. That's why you need to be careful where you put your gun. So I think at some point somebody has trod on it, and I've been having clipping, which I hadn't noticed. And as it's got worse and worse, I think it's just got bad. But at least I now know what has gone wrong. So that's about it. For me, I've spoken to Air Arms. I'm ordering a new barrel and a new body, and we're going to put all that together. So hopefully, I will be back to my old self fairly soon. But I'm not sure. I think part of this might also be with me. I've lost confidence in my ability as a shooter. Back in the past, I used to walk up to a target, 40 yards, bang, no problem. When I'm out on the range, I can't miss. I'll sit there and I'll single hole group, you know, with most rifles, 40 yards, bang, bang, bang. Not a problem. And the minute I get onto a course, I can't hit a 40 yarder. Don't know why. There's something mental up there. This is a mental sport, and part of me is maybe having to accept I'm not the shooter I used to be. But luckily, there are some fantastic shooters coming along. Owen Wilson, Jonathan Franklin are coming along. Nigel Wood, now that he's had a little grandbaby, well done. I know that now that's done, he'll hopefully be coming back. Danny Roth, hopefully we're going to get you back. Perry Broad, you know, Steve Whiting. There are so many great Springer shooters and great shooters out there who will just keep on pushing the craft forward. And I'm going to do my very best to give them all for a run for money. And of course, lovely Rex. Rex with his 54, as long as he leaves that gun alone, hopefully he'll be up there with everybody as well. Well, that's it. That's what to do when you suck. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and it's not just a little bit boring, but we just needed to go through a few things. We've got a great video coming up soon where I'm shooting some really big rifles. I love this job. As ever, thank you so much for joining us. Like, share, subscribe. It really is appreciated. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything you think I've missed, which there probably is. It'll be really frustrating for me if I've missed something and you pointed out and it fixes my shooting. Apart from losing weight, yes, I understand I'm morbidly obese and that I'm a big fan of donuts. I'm actually trying to lose a bit of weight. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a lovely time. You take care of each other, look after yourselves, shoot straight, and we'll see you all again very, very soon. Ta-da.